Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Revelry. In this part 2, we're going to be talking about tips on how to be a better DM, and we're going to have two different perspectives. We're going to have perspectives from dungeon masters and from players alike on ways to improve the game for your players and for yourself. So stay tuned, and we hope you enjoy.
Roll that intro.
All right. So, tip number one from the DM perspective is going to be to help get your players a little more engaged, and just make the whole environment a little more engaging. Is perhaps set a little ambiance, a little mood music. Butter your players up a little bit.
Before you TPK them.
Before you TPK the hell out of them. No, don't ever do that. Unless it's entirely necessary. But no. Seriously, there's been so many times in our games where I DM and there's some big, meaningful moment going on right now. And just sometimes just a simple change of the music that I have going. Because I borrow a lot of music from YouTube, let's be honest here. I know a lot of people do. I'm not a composer, I don't know jack. But I do know mood music and ambiance. And so, we had this whole moment where one of our old Nick's character over here, his character Cogsworth, came back into the picture after being out of the game for a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I found just some random. I found some random music on YouTube. I think it was just some meaningful. Literally, the title of the music was just epic, meaningful music. And I was like, sweet, I'll try it. And I just pressed it. I didn't even hear it at first, but just a simple change going from my typical music that I usually use for ambiance. I simply just changed it to that, and the entire mood changed. Everybody was very engaged. Everybody was very excited to see that Cogsworth was back. Right. It's been so long. What have you been doing? Where have you been? And not only just that though, but I also brought another one of our player characters who no longer plays with us anymore. But I brought their character back into the mix as an NPC, and that was a big deal. Because the same music was going. It was this music of camaraderie and friendship, and it was just it was really cool. And it's just always neat to have or if you're playing Curse of Strahd and you want creepy organ music and bats chirping, and there you go, you just put on some freaking Halloween track and then you got him, sunk him in right there.
And speaking of adding music to the game, that epic music was definitely heard and it was definitely felt. It changed the vibe entirely. But on top of that, it was awesome that Cogsworth was back and that Itzel, the NPC, was back. But they had grim news.
Yeah.
They had grim news to tell the player characters. And through that music, I think it gave everyone a push of energy to be like, wow, this is the new story arc. This is the new quest, overall arc and quest that we have to go on. And it's definitely felt. So from a player standpoint, I definitely think music can evolve your game. Completely. It's something that takes something right here and builds it to higher heights. So look on YouTube, and there are subscription-based music platforms such as Sirenscape, and unless you're playing games online, probably don't want to be playing Witcher or Skyrim music, but you can definitely find some
royalty-free
music that's free for commercial use, and we completely endorse that and encourage it because it helps your game and it makes your players more energized for what's to come. So, good point.
And there's something to say to let's say your party goes into a town or something, and the DM describes, or we as the DM, we describe, the storm clouds erupt overhead, and then from nowhere, from the speakerphone, or the speaker on the phone, you just hear the rumble of thunder, and then you begin to hear the crashing of rain, and it just puts you into that thing, because then in your mind you think of this, sort of medieval town with cobblestone streets or mud-soaked streets, and the horses coming and going, people moving, but that you know, and it's great to explain all that, but when you hear the rain hitting and then the people moving, it just puts you in that moment, and I love things like that, like going into caves and hearing like the dripping of water and the bats, the sound of bats.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know, it just brings another level to the game.
Oh yes,
It definitely makes things feel more alive.
Yes.
For sure. And instead of just reading, you know, your DM notes, which is good, you can always, you know, you don't need music to make it a meaningful experience, but it adds another layer of depth.
Yes,
and once you add that layer of depth, your players will be more engaged immediately. Yeah, definitely.
So one of the tips that I have is when it comes to DMing a game is let the story tell itself. And when I say let the story tell itself, what I mean is it's great to prepare your campaign. It's great to prepare notes beforehand, you know, ideas, bullet points of what you're going to do. But what you want to try to avoid is making a linear, concrete story that you have thought out and you know every turn and every up and down, you know, where you know everything that's going to happen. Because what I found back when I used to play is what that kind of storytelling does is it makes decisions that your characters make in games seem less important if their choices don't shape the story. If they decide to do something and you already have it in your mind that this is the way it's going to go, and then you try to force it in that direction, it's going to cause players to disengage. It's going to cause players to sort of fall out of sort of fall out of it, and not really see the desire to continue playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you let your players, you know, tell a story. You know, you want to set a scenario and let them fill it, because I'll tell you what, one of the easiest ways of being a DM is letting your players tell a story, because you'll have so much more inspiration. You will have so many new ideas that will come forth just based on their decisions. So it's always good to just let the story develop organically. And like I said, prepare. That's good to have notes on notable NPCs and buildings and things like that. But the core of the story should grow organically from you and the players.
This actually kind of ties in with another tip that I have, which I'm just going to go ahead and say now since it's not really that big of a tip.
Okay.
But I mean, it does definitely tie in, and that is, you know, have prepared whatever you just don't feel comfortable improvising.
That's so true. Yeah.
You know, that's pretty much
the
it.
players will fill in the rest, because as a player, I feel like, and this is not in a bad way at all or a malevolent way, but it forces engagement from your players when you let them tell the story, when you let them make the decisions, when they want to do something and you say, oh no, that doesn't happen because he would never allow that. Like, let your players try, and if it happens, it'll change the story.
Yeah.
For the better or for the worse.
Yeah.
But the DM will always recover if it's a notable and, you know, a good DM. But it does force engagement, because when you're not on the railroad tracks, you have to contribute. When the DM asks you, what do you guys do? No one's just going to sit there and be like, what do we do, DM? You create that story. And through the DM letting you free in his world, you will engage. You have to. Otherwise, the story will go nowhere. Yeah.
So another great tip that I have devised and come up with. I've not actually devised and come up with this at all. I actually stole this tip from superior man of mystery, Matt Mercer.
Oh my god.
Well, I mean, Matt Mercer, Chris Perkins, Matt Colville, Mark Humes. I mean, they've all mentioned this at some point. It's, you know, in the times that I've seen their videos. And that is, and I feel it's a great tip because it's definitely helped me out a lot, because I come up with dumbass names, is have a list of really good, notable NPC names, so that when that player, I'm talking to you, Sierra, comes up to this random ass old man that you're asking directions about, what's your name? I don't know. My name is
Jerry.
What are some of your quick off the top head names that you've come up with?
So the most notable one, and I'm gonna get real shit for this, I'm pretty sure, is I came up with, so there's this area that they were in. It was kind of like Japanese in setting, and I had like these little capybara like creatures walking around doing stuff. And I made the poor decision of naming him Kegel. I had no idea that Kegel was a pelvic muscle exercise, but they were all fucking laughing at me and saying, "Oh, you have a firm grip, Kegel, with a handshake." And I was like, "Oh, thanks. Yes, it is a great handshake." Turns out I'm
That
dumb.
was funny.
Oh,
I am Boofy the
gosh.
Clown.
That was
Um,
hilarious.
But I mean, you know, but I now ever since then I've learned my lesson. As most of you probably have. I now have a list of names, and I no longer make that mistake anymore. There's no more Kegels,
but
but
yeah,
there is occasionally the Riz Man.
right.
So-
Or Jack Smith the
Or
blacksmith.
Jack Smith the Blacksmith.
That was Logan.
That was
But
Jack's-
you know, sometimes if you're not in a complete, you know, serious,
Oh, yeah, of
everyone put
course.
on their mean face part of the story, you know, these names could be a way to add comic relief to your game. You know, you don't want everyone to be so sad or serious all the time. It's needed in some points, but
Yeah.
you know, lighten the mood up a little bit.
Or like, yeah, I have this NPC in the game, which we haven't seen in a long time because you guys left him somewhere and never went back for him. But he's a pirate. He's their second mate of their ship.
Oh my
And his
God.
name is Cat Toe Bob.
Cat toe.
The reason why he's called Cat Toe Bob is because all the toes on his feet have been cut off, so his one single foot looks like a single cat toe.
I don't know why.
I don't know where
he
that
has
came
the
from.
name Cat
but,
Bob, but he's awesome and he's hilarious.
Yes.
And he has a sick ass captain, which is the were shark, right? That's his captain, right?
No, it wasn't his captain,
Oh,
but I
okay.
know what you're talking about.
Screw me then. But there's a sick ass captain in Joey's game that is a were shark, and he's badass because he has a peg leg and a hook hand.
Obsidian Black.
There we go. Yeah.
And he's a dwarf. Hence the obsidian part.
So, my last tip that I've come up with for being a better DM is coming into the game with passion. It takes a lot of work to come up with a story, and there's a lot of thought that goes into it. So there has to be a desire or a passion to be a storyteller. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have that. You maybe your creativity isn't isn't blossoming, and maybe you're in a rut or something. There are modules that you can do that you can DM from. So don't think that if you're not a creative person you can't be a DM, because that's not true at all.
Bullshit.
But if you want to tell a story, there needs to be a desire, a love for fantasy, for medieval style stuff. And one of the great ways that I've found to tell a story is to get inspiration. And this may sound cliche, but I've gotten inspiration from Lord of the Rings, from Game of Thrones,
We all have.
from all those medieval style, fantasy
And
genres.
you know what? Honestly, not even just that though. But I mean, like, you can easily change modern day stories and turn them into things. Like, I know, I think it was the Adventure Zone, which is a D&D podcast that I used to listen to. They had this whole arc where it was literally based on Fast and Furious.
What?
Yeah, but it takes place in like a fantasy setting.
So what?
So they had
racing
chariots.
carriages?
They had
Carriages?
carriages and stuff. They were like battle carriages.
Oh my
That
god.
had like spikes on wheels and
That's
stuff like
cool.
that, and it was really cool. And it was like
Yeah.
it was super interesting. And he even admitted that he had marathon of he did a Fast and Furious marathon, and
I
he
gotta
decided
make this
to
into the
he
game.
came out with this art. And it was
That's
great.
hilarious.
Yeah.
That's funny, and I'm sure it definitely matters on the delivering of it, because you don't want to call it the Fast and Furious games, please.
No.
But as long as you deliver it tastefully, everything can be molded into the story, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And not just fantasy too. If you're playing a sci-fi role-playing game, TTRPG that is sci-fi in nature,
Yeah, definitely.
take some inspiration from Star Trek, Star Wars,
Stargate.
Battlestar Galactica.
Anything
Yeah,
that
all
has-
of these things.
anything that has star in the
Even
name
the
usually.
Terminator. Come on.
yeah.
Terminator's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
So yeah, definitely. As long as you bring passion, your players will notice it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Your players will definitely be able to pick up on the fact.
Another tip that we have for dungeon masters, current, past, or future dungeon masters, is knowing yourself as a DM. How are you going to run your game? Are you going to stick to the rule book like it's a religion, or are you going to be more fluid with the rules? Will you allow exceptions? Will you allow exceptions to players when they say they want to do something, and it may not really cater towards D&D 5th edition or whatever edition you're playing, or whatever game you're playing, but it would be really cool, a cinematic or an RP moment for you to let it happen, and so deciding what kind of game you want to play will help set a precedent for your players as to how the game is going to flow. Myself personally, I like to use the D&D rules, but also we like to just sort of let things kind of happen organically, and so it's, I guess we definitely play more of a homebrew style campaign. And we do use rules, and we look up rules and everything, but I decided, and I believe I speak for Joseph as well, that we don't hinder players based on rules.
No.
We would much rather players have that moment rather than say, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that because it says right here.
It's not in the rules.
Right. So just decide how you're going to run your campaign.
Yeah, and I think because this actually happened pretty recently was I'm planning for my next character on Logan's next campaign, and I messaged him the other day, and I said, hey, I noticed that there's no rules for potion brewing or tonic brewing in the DMG or the Player's Guide. I think there's maybe a paragraph about this big on what it takes to make potions, and I understand that health potions are magic items, right?
Yeah.
They're magic items just like a magic sword that you would find. But somebody has to be making them, and how do they do that? And so I asked Logan for my next character, how would you feel about brewing potions that has to do with, monsters we defeated, or he's going to be a human. So how do I make something like the cat eye from The Witcher for him to be able to see in the dark? Or, maybe, like potions of ogre strength, or potions of troll resistance, where everything but fire is like isn't as effective. So he said it was an awesome question, and he even said, do you mean like The Witcher type of potions? Because I could totally make a homebrew table for that. And I was like, yes, just like that. So it's good to follow the rules, but homebrew if need be.
Yeah.
We have a lot of homebrew items in our game, and even infamous ones like the Boots of Haste from Critical Role. That's a homebrew item. Matt Mercer did make that, and so if you'd like to adopt it or anything, just make sure it's not game breaking. And if it's not game breaking, then why can't you have it?
Or like one of our characters in my campaign, they have a bag of holding that's actually their coat. So the coat is lined with a bag of holding.
It's super sick. It's like the inside of the cape or the coat is like space, and it's like a nebula, so you can see just stars. And it's so cool.
Yeah, and
so.
And if an item that you create, let's say you do create an item that's homebrew, and you find that it is game breaking, just rip it from your player's clutches like nothing, because you're the dungeon master and you can do whatever you want.
These are your machines.
These are your machines.
your machines.
Obviously, make it more cinematic than that, but
Yeah, I mean, back when we first started, me and Logan were making items that, one, are very cringy and awful, and two, were like breaking the game. And if they, they still kind of continue to break the game, even though, because like we haven't done anything about it. But some of them we did do things about it, like you put wear and tear on them and they broke.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get repaired, and it's like, oh, they're gone forever now.
Oh no.
These horribly overpowered weapons, you can't use them anymore. Here's a normal sword.
Right.
But you learn as you go.
Yeah.
It's all a learning experience for sure.
Yeah.
From what I can see, I'll never DM in my life. Ever. Maybe a one-shot game there, but nope.
You know what? This is not a tip, but this is just a suggestion. I feel that every player should have a chance to DM, just to get an idea of how hard the DM does work.
Is it hard?
It can be.
I've got like journals of just
Notes?
stuff, of notes, of campaign stuff. Oh man. It's a full-time job. It feels like it, but that it ties back to the passion and desire. If it's something you love to do, if you love to tell a story, then it's going to be okay. And if you don't use a module, then there are great resources out there for you to be able to tell a story.
So, one of our other tips that we have is, it's a really simple and easy one, honestly, is just to take notes. Whenever a player does something that might have a meaningful impact on the story later down the line, it's good to take a note, like note it down, that this person did this thing, and there might be repercussions, or he might get rewarded for it,
or where it took place. Make sure you know the city it took place.
Yeah, because I mean,
spot.
and I'm very guilty of this, where things have happened, and I've said things that seemed like they were very like offhanded, you know, didn't think that they would come up at all, and then they came back up again later, months down the
Players will
line,
never
where I
forget.
don't remember what or who or why it was said or why it was done. You know, and another thing is to help those new DMs out there. Take a look through the Dungeon Master's Guide. Honestly, like everything you really need to know is really in there. It's just, you know, it's. I know it's a lot of reading, it's a lot of text, but I mean, you know,
Read it over time.
yeah, just read it over time. Or, you know, if you feel like, oh, I'm not too sure how I should handle this thing, you know, take a look through it, you know, when you're not in a game or when you're, you know, preparing for the next game. Take a look through the DM's guide and maybe that will answer your question more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think an unprepared DM's worst enemy is the keen mind feed. So don't ever pick them.
Yeah.
Or unless your DM's good, then take the keen mind feed and watch them stumble.
Yeah.
Because they will.
You never need to take notes ever again.
No, because my character remembers everything, including the position of the sun. So,
And I will say this also, just speaking on the taking notes thing. A couple sessions ago, some stuff happened in my campaign where a callback from 3 or 4 years ago surfaced up, and not only a callback from 3 or 4 years ago, but a callback from last year. Like these different elements came together, and I'll be honest, I had to search through my notes to remember the different names and stuff, and to figure everything out. And if I didn't have notes, there's no way that it would have been, in my opinion, as awesome as I thought that it was, because I was able to reference notes and I was able to go back, and it really works if you're the type of person that likes to do callbacks or slow burns. Notes are going to be your best friend, because they are going to really help you out. Yeah, I think that's.
well, guys, thank you for joining us on this edition of D&Discussion. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll hope to see you guys in the next video. So, peace.
Thank you for watching.
See you next time.
This is our setup with our Hero Forge, or what are the fucking, what's it called?
Dwarven Forge?
This week.
That we got for cheap as shit.
Wait for this.
I'm ready.
All right. Okay.
Insane.
Welcome back to the Revelry. Oh fuck.
You went confident.
No, you're good. There you
No,
go.
no. Okay.
Beep beep.
No, that
Okay,
was
cool.
that was good.
All right.
That was good.
Hold on, let me just check this real quick. Make sure we're not. Oh, it's only 15. Cool.
Okay. So I'm gonna do like passion and desire.
Yep, that'll
Yeah,
end it up.
Yes,
So-
I've yet to do this.
Alright, so I'd say start with you since he was the last one talking.
Fuck. All right.
Pee-pee.
Oh my god. All right, and
Okay.
You good, kid?
Yeah, definitely.
Hell yeah. Joey, you're up next, bud.
Bud. Shit, mate.
What you doing over there, Emily?
I'm canceling.
Hands so.
Is that Tiger Lily from the Witcher 3 video game?
What? Say Tiger Lily?
Isn't that his name?
No, Tiger Lily is from Peter Pan.
What's the...
Dandelion.
Dandelion.
This one.
Isn't that Puffin stuff from the Witcher 2 video game?
Isn't that Dumbledore from?
I've never played the Witcher,
from the
so
Angler
don't,
7?
Don't hang me. I need to get to it.
No, this is specifically the outfit Yaskir wears in episode
Which is the
Oh
same
my
guy.
god.
4
Here we
at the
go.
beginning of The Witcher, when he wears it for 4
Emily.
minutes and then never puts it on again. Got it, I'm quiet now.
okay, here we go.
Beep beep.
She's a cosplayer, so
Beep, boop, boop.
Yes.
she does that stuff.
I do that. So.
Emily, you want to come shout out your TikTok?
You want me to come shout out my TikTok?
Yeah, why not? This will be in the bloopers, so you can just go ahead and just take it.
Hi, hello. This is my cosplay.
We'll get back to
That's fine.
I thought it was next.
Yeah.
it.
The fuck.
I do cosplay. Hello. Goodbye.
That's my girlfriend, Emily.
Are you
Hey.
not?
What's your TikTok?
Oh, my TikTok is
I was
it's
gonna say we could just link it in the description.
We will once
is
you said it.
it's a ruby coconut with an underscore in the middle. And
Between Ruby and Coconut?
Yeah, between Ruby and Coconut.
We'll have that in the screen.
And I got to do the Witcher cosplay.
She has some really cool ones. You guys should check them out. She does her D&D characters and all that shit. So.
I do my D&D character.
Do.
She does do.
She does.
Beep, beep. Okay.
Okay.
And
Back to the story.
Yeah.
All right.
And see.
If I get interrupted one more fucking time, heads will roll.
all right, good.
All right.
So Nick, so I was thinking maybe-
Motherfucker!
Oh, come on, you've had enough.